Hey, this is Sabrina. Um, so while I talk about football and anti-fascism on this channel, right now we're going to turn to the world of rugby and look at how what some teams are doing over there can also apply to football. And by football, I mean soccer, of course. Okay, so I'm looking at a story on Aaron in the Morning, and I will link this story below. This is from July 20th, 2026, which is 3 days ago. It's now the 23rd of July. About the Baltimore Ferals. They're a Maryland Division III rugby team, and they've made headlines for speaking out against the trans exclusionary attacks from our current government's fascist administration. Um, so let's see, back in February, the USA Rugby organization finally bowed to pressure and adopted a policy to indicate that only those assigned female at birth could play on women's teams. Um, but the Ferals, which is a specifically welcoming LGBTQ rugby club under the Baltimore Flamingos club, they're not having it. They're speaking out against this. And they're not the only Division III rugby team in that area to do this. The new rules under the USA Rugby guidelines rules states that any complaints about trans athletes can only come from an opposing team, and then action will be taken against that team and player. But like one of the other teams, the Capital Union, also has at least one transgender team member, and they playing against the Feral decided not to tell on one another, which basically renders this ban meaningless. Just awesome. And then the Ferals are going one step further by refusing to keep quiet about it. They're making noise. They're calling out discriminatory policies from both the USA Rugby and the Trump regime. Um, yeah, a post by the Flamingos stated that trans women are women and belong in women's sports, quote unquote, and also states, quote, "We are proud that so many of our opponents have shown us that they share these values, and we hope that clubs around the nation continue to recruit and uplift trans players, especially in the face of transphobic policies," unquote. Um, so yeah, there's anti-trans groups that are offering cash rewards and viral fame to athletes who refuse to compete against trans opponents. Um, but it's clear that the rugby teams across the country, not just these couple, but across the country, are going the other way, welcoming trans women, trans men, non-binary players to play wherever they feel most comfortable. Um, so yeah, teams even across the globe, uh, are speaking up and showing support. Um, this coming August, next month, is the Bingham Cup and Amanda Mark Cup in Australia, and it's the world's foremost rugby tournament for LGBTQ rugby leagues and players. Um, so yeah, they're going. This team is going to that tournament, and yeah, the Flamingos, the Ferals, who have accepted trans teammates. They were expecting some pushbacks and some backlash on with other teams, but the exact opposite is happening. There's been an outpouring of support from women's rugby teams across the board, even donning trans flags at games in protest. I'm looking through the story now, so that's why all the pauses. So World Rugby, the World Organization for Rugby, was the first international sports federation to adopt an anti-trans policy, but the USA Rugby resisted. World Rugby did that in 2020. So USA Rugby tried to hold out, but then they capitulated. And USA Rugby decided to implement their own trans ban in March of this year in order to not get decertified, which would render the organization entirely powerless as a sports governing body, and allow the government, the U.S. government, to replace USA Rugby with a governing body of its own design. So I get it, but it's still not okay. But rugby players across the country are continuing to compete with trans players and continuing to fight against this. A rugby news blog, women's rugby news blog called Your Scrum Half Connection, called for a nationwide campaign for all women's teams to rebrand as open or mixed gender teams, which would render the women's category useless. Rugby for All is what they're calling that campaign. It's continuing to work behind the scenes, building a collective bargaining movement across the sport. So rugby, has a history of attracting a lot of LGBTQ plus players, and when a part of that community is being targeted and told they can't compete, teams as a whole, organizations as a whole, are speaking up against this. And the Farrell in Baltimore are being among the strongest, if not the strongest, to do this. It's a wonderful thing. Countless other rugby teams are also speaking out against the ban. The Golden Badgers of Golden, Colorado, which is a Division I team, so it's at the most elite level, has spoken out against it. They posted in May that trans players, quote, will always be welcome and protected on our team. Okay, so that's a summary of that report from Erin in the Morning. If you don't know Erin in the Morning, you should definitely check her out. She, it's trans-specific, but she's got connections in the political arena in the United States, and definitely knows what's going on and is keeping serious track